All right, week two. Hopefully last week you got a chance to look around Blackboard and kind of figure out where everything's located. If you're still having trouble finding anything, or if you have any questions about the course, feel free to let me know. I'm in my office way too much right now, especially because we're not meeting for classes, so don't feel like you're bothering me. I'd be glad to help you if you need anything. Last week we went through chapter 1, and then you had a bunch of introduction assignments to do. So we're just going to kind of pick up. This will be hopefully probably the last week that we don't actually meet in person. I know this feels weird. It basically feels like an online class up to this point, but hang on. And then next week when we start doing the labs, I think it gets a little bit better. It's more enjoyable for me too. So this week, what you need to do, like I said, we did chapter 1 last week, and that was an introduction. So we've got 2 lectures that you need to go through this week. I know that sounds like a lot, but the good news is they're really... they go together really well. And they're not super long either. The lecture videos can take a little while to watch. But remember, if this was a regular class, you would meet 2 times a week for like 2 hours and 45 minutes one day, for 2 hours the next day. That's a lot of time in person. So since we're not meeting in person, I would just kind of split this up where you watch one chapter one day, watch the next chapter the next day, and just kind of break it up. Don't feel like you've got to watch all of that, both lectures at the same time. Chapter 15 is on Darwin and evolution. Chapter 19 is on systematics and phylogeny. So what we're going to be talking about is Darwin and his theory of evolution through natural selection, how we got the diversity of all the organisms that are on Earth today. And then chapter 19, systematics and phylogeny, that deals with how we group and how we organize all the living things on Earth today. So they do go together really neat. It's a, to me, fascinating chapter that we go through. I don't know if you were anything like me, I don't remember covering this in high school. I'm not really sure why. I know sometimes it's presented as controversial, and maybe some instructors or high school teachers just don't want to touch it or deal with it at all. But this is a really interesting, whatever your opinions going into it, it's an interesting chapter that it's kind of makes you think a little bit more. So we're going to go through those chapters, and then at the end of the week, by Sunday, January 24th, you need to take, there's a chapter 15 and 19 review quiz. So it'll be on material from both of those chapters. All right. Any of the assignments that I gave you last week, so the About Me survey, the syllabus quiz, and that bonus diversity project, those are all also going to be due on Sunday, January 24th. So if you didn't do them last week, make sure that you get those done this week. And then after that, just kind of getting ready for when we start meeting in person. So just a reminder, next week is when we will start meeting in person for our labs. So first off, most of you have done this already, but you've got to pick your lab group that you're going to attend with. Remember, Group A, y'all are going to come in on Tuesdays. Group B, you will come in on Thursdays. Now, I checked right before I started recording this, and I think Group A is full. Remember, you can only have 12 students. So if you haven't signed up for a lab group yet, you're going to be in Group B, which is Thursday. If you sent me a message, or if you responded to that discussion board, then I've got you. You don't have to check. But Group A, you will show up on Tuesday. Group B, you'll show up on Thursday. That's next week. In the meantime, go ahead and review. I added an announcement, so you've probably seen that already, but right underneath at the bottom of this section, it goes through our COVID procedures and in-person attendance policies. So let's go through what we need to do. It sounds like a lot at first. It's really not that bad, and you'll get the hang of it. But because of COVID, we're having to change our procedures for showing up. The first time that you come to class, you're going to need to bring that waiver form that I mentioned last week. If you don't have it with you, I'll have a copy that you'll need to sign on that day. If you're under 18, you have to get a guardian to sign it. So if you're under 18, make sure that you get that signed and bring it with you. We're actually not supposed to let you stay on campus if you don't have that. So make sure you get that. Every day that we meet for class, if you haven't been to the new science building, George Wallace Drive is the main road where the George Wallace campus is on the right. That's where you'll find like Wallace Hall and Allen and all those buildings. And then the East Broad campus, we're on the opposite side. It's the big new science building. If you haven't been, it's really nice. But it's the big new building that you can see from Wallace Drive. So you're going to turn to the East Broad campus, opposite of Wallace Hall. And when you turn in there, there will be a checkpoint, just a kind of a heads up. It backs up in the morning when people are getting their temperature screened. So if you can, try to be here a little bit earlier, especially on the first day. But you'll have to go through that checkpoint, they'll screen your temperature, and they'll give you a wristband saying that you didn't have a fever that day. So you'll put on that wristband. You will enter to the science building. Once you go through the checkpoint, you're going to make a left immediately after that, and there's plenty of parking at the back of the science building. When you go in the building, you've just got to sign in. They're doing that for contact tracing. If someone was positive, they're going to alert everyone who was in the building at the time that person was there. So you have to have that with you. You'll have to sign in, and we're still under the mask mandate, so you do have to wear a mask at any time in the lab. We'll be spaced out, but we're going to keep a mask on. I don't like it. I have to talk and teach with a mask, so y'all can do it. We'll get through this. Hopefully the vaccine will be available before too long. Anyway, sorry, I'm kind of rambling. So just make sure you're familiar with all those policies before we start meeting next week. All right? And again, any questions, feel free to let me know, and I'll get back with you. Thanks.